Hello, this is just a short supplemental podcast for the Problem of Evil lectures. This one goes along with the lecture we've done on Judaism and Jewish theodicy, to include a subject that we won't have time to cover in the class because obviously there's so much to cover. The Bible speaks of a group of people called the Amalekites, who are descended from a chap called Amalek. There's all sorts of arguments we could go into on the origins of Amalek, but that's not terribly relevant for what I want to look at today, which is the idea presented within the Torah that when the Jews were fleeing from Egypt, the Amalekites attacked, preyed upon them as they were fleeing, and particularly strove to attack those who were weakest, the elderly, the ill, the very young, and so on, picking off easy targets, if you like. And that's led to the notion within Judaism pretty much ever since that the Amalekites are the embodiment of evil. They're predatory, vicious, terrible people, the implacable enemies of the Jews. Historians argue as to exactly who the Amalekites were. So, for example, within early Saudi Arabian sources, there are mentions of a tribe with a similar sounding name. So some people speculate, were they of Arabic origin, for example. From a theodicy point of view, the exact historical context of the original Amalekites is almost irrelevant in a sense, in that the real interest is in their role not so much as historical, shall we say, logos-based understandings. If we think back to subjects we touched on in the first year around logos and mythos, between understanding things logically and rationally and understanding things for their symbolic potency as stories, as emotive themes. Historians are going down the logos route, arguing that, was it this tribe, was it that tribe, was it some other tribe? The mythos approach is to note the fact that in modern Judaism, and actually Judaism over the last couple of thousand years, they saw the Amalekites not as a specific bunch of people who lived in that region over there, but as metaphors for enemies of Judaism in general, people who were relentless, ruthless, evil, determined to destroy the Jews no matter what. So at some points in history they saw various Christian movements as the Amalekites because they were so intent on pogroms. At other points in times it was the Russians or the Germans or the Arabs, various nations that have tried to eliminate Judaism and killed huge numbers of Jewish people. So in the modern context, the Amalekites are not of a particular genetic line so much as people who are consumed by the spirit of evil, wanting to destroy Judaism specifically rather than wanting to destroy Hindus or Buddhists or atheists or whoever else. Exodus gives instructions to blot out the name of Amalek and his descendants because of their wickedness. And this has been debated by rabbis ever since. Does this mean there is a duty upon people, to Jewish people, to oppose, eliminate, kill by whatever, or do whatever is necessary to get rid of the Amalekites at a symbolic level? In other words, the enemies of Judaism. One of the mitzvah, the many rules and kind of guidelines for living a decent moral life proposed in Judaism, in fact the 613th of them, is based around the idea that the name of Amalek must be blotted out, which is quite reminiscent of things from ancient Egypt, where they tried to blot out the names of deeply unpopular individuals, such as the Pharaoh Akhenaten, on this idea that if you don't speak the name, the power wanes and goes of the individual. And the other aspect of the 613th mitzvah is the elimination of the enemies of Judaism. The elimination, not just not saying the name, but getting rid of the Amalekites. Now that can be interpreted as literally getting a gun and shooting them, but it can also be interpreted that through education, through more peaceful means, the enemies can be made friends, if you see what I mean, so that they cease to be enemies. So not that you literally necessarily have to bump them off, but that you have to strive to eliminate them politically or through education or through other forms of more peaceful means of opposing these malevolent forces. And there is implicit in this sense the notion that Amalek himself is almost like a kind of a demonic presence that moves. In one century he's in this nation, and in another century he's in that nation. The hatred moves from place to place to place, so that the enemies of Judaism aren't always of the same ethnic origins or the same national identity, but that the essence of hatred and evil and opposition to Judaism kind of leapfrogs from one group of individuals to another group of individuals and moves around the world. And that's what makes it a metaphysical evil. If you look at it as a symbolic evil, even to the point where you get in Israel, 20th and 21st century Jewish people arguing that, for example, as some rabbis have done, that groups of very extremist Zionists cause so much harm to other Jews, or liberal Jews and Orthodox Jews and so forth, that even though they are Jewish, they are like Amalek, in that they are causing more harm than good, and so they must be opposed. So it gets quite a muddied and confusing picture, this notion of a constant ongoing enemy of the Jewish people whose ruthless opposition is so intense that they will maim, torture, murder, commit genocide, do the most horrific things in order to destroy Judaism. It's a present concept, and it's one worth reflecting on in terms of how powerful an image that is in Jewish consciousness, and how much influence that has over things like policy making within the Israeli government and so on. Who is perceived as Amalek and who is not? Is this something which people of a non-Jewish, of a Gentile background can understand and comprehend? And you might argue that maybe other religions also have this idea that there are forces which oppose them and want to destroy them and undermine them. Look at a lot of the more colourful, shall we say, preachings within very fundamentalist movements, Christian movements in America, particularly coming from the Deep South and the Midwest, who are absolutely convinced there are satanic forces opposing Christianity. And if there is a particular politician who is seen as very pro-Christian, then anyone who opposes them, for whatever reason, they don't like their economic policies or their foreign policy or whatever, the mere fact that they oppose this doyen of fundamentalist Christianity means that they are then seen in the eyes of those particular churchgoers as being an embodiment of the forces of evil, that they are on the side of the enemy, as it were. So it's something that is not only confined to Christianity, but permeates a number of different outlooks within a number of different religions, where there is a perception of coordinated hostile force that must be dealt with, tackled, and will crop up again and again and again. A bit like the baddies in the Daleks in Doctor Who. Every time they got rid of the next series, they're back again. And there's almost that kind of sense that evil is implacable. And every time you think you've defeated it, it's only a temporary success because they will be back. Does that lead to a state of paranoia, a state of tension, an inability to relax and rest and just enjoy the goodness of life because you're always afraid of what might be lurking in the background? Or is it a realistic perception of actual malice, actual danger? One to think of, one to consider and debate amongst yourselves. Okay, thank you.